Hi all. I just want to share my little prezi with you about my semester and my CK12 Flexbook. So I called it Growing New Ideas, and I chose the sort of metaphor of the tree because I had a lot of ideas planted already, but this course really allowed me to sort of bring them to fruition, which I'll explain in a second. So the first thing, the roots of this are sort of grounded in our Common Core units that my department has been working on together. And here's just an example of one of them. It kind of sets up the focus standard and the culminating unit, and this is basically how we run our whole unit for each of our grades, and this is for grade 10. And Melissa and Andrea and I decided that we would each take a different quarter, different unit, and create our Flexbook chapters so that we could use them to adapt them to our own stuff, and I'll explain that in a little second. But basically, the thematic essential question is, what can literature teach us? And that was the foundation for my whole unit and my chapter. And the essential questions guide every single one of the modules that I created. So the next part is this guiding question, and I wanted to start out for you just to kind of think about just 11 seconds of Isabel Allende talking a little bit about what literature can teach, or why she does literature, and why she thinks it has so much to communicate. And this is one of the YouTube videos that I embedded into one of my modules. So I want to give you just a little insight into where my students would be.
Thank you so much. It's really scary to be here among the smartest of the smart. I'm here to tell you a few tales of passion. There's a Jewish saying that I love. What is truer than truth? Answer, the story. I'm a storyteller. I want to convey something that is truer than truth about our common humanity. All stories interest me, and some haunt me until I end up writing them. Certain themes keep coming up: justice, loyalty, violence, death, political and social issues, freedom. I'm aware of the mystery around us, so I write about coincidences, premonitions, emotions, dreams, the power of nature, magic.
So when my students think about what's truer than truth, and they listen to the messages of all the books that we've read over the semester, that is the inspiration for my book. But I also wanted to talk about the inspiration for just creating this Flexbook, which is really our class. And it really opened my eyes to like a sort of digital possibility. I use a lot of digital content in my classroom, but to streamline it in such a way and to get some ideas from you guys through the blog was really an awesome inspiration. So the sort of core of or the tree trunk of this is me meeting them in their world, which is a foundation for how I kind of organize this book, because my particular chapter wasn't so much knowledge content based and more skill based. It was really important for me to work on meeting them in their world through the digital world. So the first thing that I did a lot of was embedding TED and other videos, which you just saw. Here's a little screenshot of one of the chapters where I created a Scoop-It, where they can check out different sources online about creating group norms as they create their own, and I have them do a little exercise. This is not live, but they would click on this and be able to do one of the assignments is based on this YouTube clip rather than just reading something and responding to it in a traditional textbook way. Another thing I did was from this class, and the inspiration of this class was embedding the Google Forms for formative assessments. And I know that you guys all watched my little, well, some of you probably watched my little tutorial about it and maybe took it, but it was really helpful to me, and I love that I can use these and embed them into my textbook and gather important data in a way that I can interact with them through their textbook, which is definitely not something that you would be able to do with a traditional textbook. So that's something that I wanted to highlight. And also incorporating digital sources, which I already do. Here's just a screenshot from my Macbeth blog that I do with my AP seniors, but now I'll be able to link it to assignments like this from the textbook that I created, where the students get to respond to what it means to be a part of a team, and they'll be able to blog and pull in examples from outside sources through history, etc. So I'm really excited about that. The practical use piece of this presentation, and I entitled Coming to Fruition, and it's essentially all of the roots and the ideas in the Common Core unit came to fruition through my CK12 Flexbook. And I've spoken a little bit about and written a little bit about how difficult at first it was sort of to maneuver this, but it became much more intuitive once I learned how to use concepts as modules instead of the chapter format. So this isn't live, I will take you to the live piece, but this is essentially my 6 modules and my Common Core State Standards alignment, so that the students actually end up doing a reflection on how all of these met our Common Core State Standards. And so that's kind of how I set it up. I really basically followed the essential questions from our own Common Core unit and just aligned everything. So here's the link. I'll take you to that in a second. So the evolution of, or the 5-year plan really, is that I want all Common Core units for our department, at least for the 10th graders, to be able to adapt their own flexbook. So if we, Melissa and Andrea and I and whoever else is teaching the sophomores next year could do this, it would be pretty awesome for us to just be able to adapt each of our own flex books with the same basic information, and we can work collaboratively as a team to really bring to life all of the work that we've put in to creating our units together this year. I also think it would be cool to plant the seed for other grades or departments as we continue, or as we begin to use these more and more, and people hear about them through professional development like what Melissa gave this year in our faculty-led professional development. I think that it could plant the seed for other people to really grow their own digital textbooks, and we'll see how it goes. We have to implement it and do some reflection first, but I'm pretty excited about it. And then for personal goals, I would just like to incorporate my Flexbook in school and out of school with my students and in my instruction, have it up on the board, and have my students be interacting with it, especially if we go to the one-to-one. And I also want to evolve myself, but also the books as I continue on with this, which you can do because it's the open resource. So I just want to recap the fruits of our labor, and that's the benefits part of the presentation. And Dave asked for a couple of different benefits, so I'm just going to go through the different categories. So I blogged a lot about the personal benefits. Interaction and engagement with students is incredible. The ability for them to collaborate via Google Docs and other types of things through digital textbooks helps us confront what we learned about through the National Council of Teachers of English reading very, very early on in the semester about the changing face of literacy and how students need to be critical readers of the internet and of different kinds of text sources, including images and videos. And so I think that a textbook like this would be really, really helpful for that. Meeting students in the world, like I said before, it's changing. The way that they perceive the world, understand the world, deconstruct the world, recompose the world is all changing. And I think that the digital textbook, especially in the CK12 Flexbook that we created or starting to create, can really help meet them where they need to. And maybe not all students, but for those that can and will and want to use it right now, they can. And it also, I think, I'm excited kind of personally it might help to be a little bit more student-centered if I can incorporate CK12 to actually make my students create concepts and modules together, and then we can, as a sort of open source, start fixing them up. It might not be through CK12, but other wiki spaces. So I'm excited for them to create these more in their themselves as well to create a more student-centered room. Local school, I think it's awesome because they're common yet adaptable, especially as we're transitioning into the Common Core. The financial benefits are obvious, and which we've learned about, and I, they're just obvious. We can also teach students to be valuable members of the digital age, which again is their reality, which I mentioned in the personal benefits. It's so important for them to be critical consumers of what they understand, what they come to understand the internet to mean, and the different interactions with layers and layers and layers of society and global society. So I think that's really important, especially as they're sort of forging new paths in new jobs in the future. Keeps us honest, and I wrote a little bit about that. I think, as we confront changing material in our own classrooms and changing needs of our students, we can't just depend on old textbooks. We have to redefine ourselves and our teaching every single year, and I think that this really gives us an opportunity to do that. And then I guess one of the things, only if there's a one-on-one, which is one of my big drawbacks of this, the equity and access is going to be huge for students because they'll be able to access text in a way that they've never been able to do before. We can go Howard Gardner or whatever you want to say about different learning styles, multiple intelligences. The way that we have the potential to create these books can really help equity and access to all students for learning. And then also the last part, this idea of the knowledge ecosystem that one of the videos was about, just that we can start creating these like miniature subsystems of knowledge, but also how they function in a sort of macrocosm of knowledge. And by allowing them to create wikis and incorporating them into this sort of digital textbook world, not just the textbook per se, but more the wiki and the open resources can really, really help them access those ecosystems. And then the final benefits are global. I wrote about this as well, but education is a fundamental human right. And I think having OERs and digital textbooks, not necessarily the ones we're making, but just the concept of it in general is really exciting. And the globalization piece of things, our kids can be a part of something much bigger as people are trying to solve the global worlds of a world that is creating synapses, I guess, between people and cultures and movements. And I think it's going to be awesome to be able to use these types of things to solve the bigger problems of the world. So that is my presentation, and I hope that everyone understands a little bit about what's going on. These are the works cited from my book, and so before I take you to my book, I'm gonna kind of let you check those out. All of them, as I indicated at the bottom, are under the Creative Commons license and have other open licenses or have no other copyright restrictions. So here is the book, and I'm just going to take you to one thing for the final piece of this. I'll take you to this one. So this is essentially how they're set up, and it's pretty wonderful. I like it. It just allows me to incorporate images and other things, prep activities, sources, everything you possibly imagine. And I'll take you to one more. You can incorporate all kinds of things. They can make their own cartoons. They can link their own cartoons to this, which is a really cool site. And there's all kinds of like external things that they can link to, exercises that they can do, reflections that they can use as they continue on with their work with these specific skills, videos that they can access, assignments, etc. So that's just like kind of a quick overview, but it just has been a really incredible opportunity. And so to kind of think about the overall growing process of this has been pretty cool. So that's